Hello everybody, this is Guitar here, and welcome back to another Terraria video. Here we are with part 2 of my Terraria hardcore story, where we continue on with another fresh start. Here, starting with the Eye of Cthulhu. I don't remember how many tries it took me, but probably, I don't know, half a dozen, a handful of tries before I managed to get a foothold again on a new world, and I got the first boss taken down. Next up is the goblins, of course. It usually takes me a few tries to get up to full HP, pre-hard mode that is, and get the basic gear, like the essential accessories, let's say double jump, Hermes boots, that type of thing. Oh, lucky horseshoe is definitely nice. After I get that, I tend to have a much higher rate of survival. Anyway, once I get past the first couple of bosses, though, usually I have a pretty high probability of at least making it towards Wall of Flesh. As you saw from last video, though, my post-Wall of Flesh / Wall of Flesh itself survival rate was not super great. Here, I was interestingly trying sort of a different strategy for the Brain of Cthulhu. I happened to have a bunch of, Hellfire arrows from the Underworld, and so I was using them to take on the Brain, but near the end of the fight there, I couldn't really tell. I was having a lot more trouble deciphering which Brain was the real one, and so I ended up switching back to the regular flaming arrows at the end. Still got very close to dying, actually, to him, which is a bit embarrassing. But I do have a little bit less defense overall on with my loadout here than I had on some of the other characters. Anyway, after the Brain, I was able to take out Skeletron pretty easily. It happened to be a blood moon when I fought him, so that was pretty funny. And if you'll notice, I actually do have a, I can't remember the name of it. I think it's a yellow horseshoe balloon. It's the horseshoe balloon that you make out of the sandstorm in a bottle. I got really fortunate and found a sandstone. I think I said that the first time too, now that I'm remembering. I found a sandstorm in a bottle and was able to make the yellow horseshoe balloon, which adds some really nice mobility. Here we are to take a quick look at the map of my world before I enter hard mode, and you can see my loadout here, my accessories and armor and everything that I'm using. Once again, I'm going to go with the Phoenix Blaster to take on the Wall of Flesh, and then I get right underway. So I did have a little bit of a different plan this time. I was only planning on fighting the Wall of Flesh once instead of farming it, 3 or 4 times like I usually try to do. Because after the last time, in that Hallowed Mimic spawning on me, I wasn't really wanting to take that chance again. So I just took it easy, took down the Wall of Flesh once, and then went home, because thinking about it, there's nothing that I really need from the Wall of Flesh in order to advance through early post-Wall of Flesh hard mode, let's say. So I played it a little bit safer this time, got the first Wall of Flesh kill easily, was lucky enough to get a Ranger emblem from the treasure bag, actually. And then I made a small mistake. I forgot to record my my fight against the Eater of Worlds, but that was one of the first things I did post hard mode there. After I was able to make my own corruption biome from buying the corrupt seeds from the Dryad when you put her in a graveyard. Made the what's it called, the worm food, I think, to summon the Eater of Worlds. Got that taken out, and shortly after I got maximum pre or post hard mode ore gear, I had full hallowed, and I got the adamantite. I got adamantite with the adamantite repeater. I was able to take out the goblin invasion here, as you see me doing now. I ended up fighting a total of 3 of the goblin, I can't remember what they're called now. Warlocks, that's right. I keep forgetting to call them by their correct name, because they used to be called summoners, last I knew. Anyway, took out 3 of them. I was really fortunate in that I got both the Shadow Flame knife, the Shadow Flame bow, and even the Hextech doll magic weapon. The Shadow Flame bow, it turns out, is a lot better than I remember, and I ended up using this thing for quite a while here. I replaced my adamantite repeater with it, and using the endless quiver, which you can craft at the crystal ball using, was it a little less than 4,000 arrows, I think? 397, is that right? Something there. 3,996 maybe. That sounds right. Anyway, you know how to craft the endless quiver. So I was able to shoot endless Shadow Flame arrows with Shadow Flame bow. Used that to take on the Queen Slime pretty easily there. And so that was the first hard mode boss that I took out. I unfortunately didn't get the Hook of Dissonance, which I was looking for, but I did get the Blade Staff, so I summoned that up, and then went right for the Destroyer. Again, using the Shadow Flame bow, and normally my strategy has always been to grab a bunch of Holy Arrows to fight the Destroyer with, on top of using the Daedalus Storm bow, but I noticed that the Shadow Flame arrows from the Shadow Flame bow do have pretty decent enemy penetration. However, after and during this fight, I realized that it's not as good as I thought. It only penetrates the first 3, maybe 4 enemies. So, I wasn't doing quite insane damage to the Destroyer, but it was still definitely good enough. And with the range on the bow, I was able to stay a good distance away, so was able to take out the Destroyer, not in any record time, but definitely not too bad. I think it took me about half of the night or so, and I was able to do it from a safe distance and just take it slow, dodging the lasers that I could. And I don't think I ever really dropped below pretty healthy amounts of HP, actually. Nothing too interesting happened for the Destroyer boss fight, but it was the first mechanical boss that I was able to take down, so I was pretty happy about that. I think I had plans to fight the other ones directly following, but I decided not to on this night. Instead, what I did was I went and I think I got ready to fight the Queen Slime another time or two, because I was hoping to get the, what's it called? The Hook of Dissonance. Actually, I forgot that pirates invaded between then and then, or now, whatever, you know what I was trying to say. So I had to fight the pirates off, and here you can actually get a little bit of a better idea of exactly how much penetration the Shadow Flame arrows have. I think it's maybe 3, it might be 4. But I did use them to take out the pirates. I did have to take it a little bit slow. The ranged attacks from them can definitely be pretty scary. I think I did have to recall, go back to down to my base once or twice to heal up. Also, look at that, I actually got a warding gold ring right off the bat here, like less than 25% of the pirate invasion complete, and I already got one of those, which was crazy lucky. Unfortunately, it's not an item that is super beneficial to me. I never had any money problems, having most of the money income covered by just farming different bosses for special and powerful items that I was looking for. But here we are, taking out the pirates. I tried my best to take advantage of the little uneven terrain patches that I have on the natural surface of my world here. So I was able to get an angle where I could rain arrows across and hit most of the pirates while they were unable to shoot me with either their little handguns that the Deadeyes shoot, or the crossbows that the Corsairs have, which those things do a lot of damage, so that's pretty scary. There we go, got the first pirate invasion defeated, and I was able to do it without having to fight any Flying Dutchmen. Anyway, directly following that, I went for the twins. So went ahead, summoned the twins up on the nice long sky arena, and I just rode my unicorn backwards, as I always do against the twins. I was able to keep them fairly far apart from each other, actually. Focus down Spazzy first is what I normally like to do. Got him to transform, and I never had any trouble with his cursed flamethrower thing. I was able to stay far enough away with the dash of the Shield of Cthulhu, plus The unicorn mount definitely gives me enough speed to stay a safe distance away. Towards the end here, the little chain or tendril thing that connects them, it looks like it actually broke right before I killed Spazzy. So it was almost like I had them so far apart that I wasn't receiving backup fire from Retinizer the whole time, almost. So that made the first half of the fight pretty easy, and I never have too much issue with a Retinizer after I take Spazzy out. Usually the lasers are easy enough to side strafe away from and just focus fire down. So once again, it wasn't anything too scary there. And directly after the twins, I decided to go for Skeletron Prime to make it take advantage of the potions that I already had used. So I start up Skeletron Prime, and I know that he does have quite a bit more health than the twins. Usually takes a bit more time. And I thought I would probably have enough time based on the moon position though, and I guess I am wearing the cell phone which has the time recorded. But I started it up, and I was going pretty good at the start of the fight here. But then I start wondering, it crossed my mind that I think Skeletron Prime will go enraged and one-shot you at dawn at 4:30 a.m. So that thought kind of crosses my mind, and I'm like, okay, maybe I am on a bit harder of a timer than I realized. But I kept DPSing him down, focusing the actual head itself and not really worrying about the other 4 arms. But then he starts hitting me with quite a few of his attacks. The laser gets like, I don't know, it just starts hitting me over and over again. And so I got really low there, and I ended up recalling out. He despawned, but I was not able to defeat Skeletron Prime on my first attempt. So I went ahead and continued on. I went back to now continuing the Queen Slime grind, so I went to fight her another time or two. You'll notice it's just before morning time, and I noticed that when I started this fight and realized, I wonder if there's a chance that a solar eclipse could happen on me during this Queen Slime fight. Turns out I was right. It did happen to be a solar eclipse right after I summoned Queen Slime. So now I'm running along on my sky bridge looking for deadly solar eclipse enemies. Luckily, I was able to grab a hunter potion out of my floating piggy bank there, so that helped a lot in allowing me to spot enemies on the bridge before I ran into them. So I just watched out for those enemies and then focused down the queen. Honestly, the enemies, especially like vampires, I think they would like two-shot me at this point, even with my potions running. I don't have all of my max combat potions, but I have most of them, of course. Kite Queen Slime along, take her out once. I think I actually end up fighting her again, which I did not remember doing at the time, but while I was editing these clips together, I noticed that I just sort of fought her again during the solar eclipse. I don't know if I would recommend doing that. That seems pretty dangerous. I also took some time, though, to farm out some of the solar eclipse enemies. I wanted to kill some vampires and hopefully possibly get a moon charm from them. And then I also was looking for a possible celestial shell, because I knew that the moon shell, or no, what's it called? Actually, I can't remember. Oh, Neptune's shell, I think. Is that what the base material is called? I don't remember now. But you can see there, I got 2 of them, and so I was pretty happy with that. Then I go up to fight Queen Slime again, which, again, I probably wouldn't recommend doing this, knowing that it's still a solar eclipse. Fought Queen Slime and was able to get her taken out. Afterwards, I was able to get the Hook of Dissonance, which I like to use for a couple of different things, so had that ready to go. And, of course, the only thing left, or the immediate thing next, was to actually take out Skeletron Prime. So I did stick around a little bit, farm some more solar eclipse enemies, at least the first ones. And there you can see I was able to get a moon charm, which was very nice. There I get my Hook of Dissonance. And then, oh yeah, I did take a brief intermission. I went into the dungeon because I didn't actually happen to get an Azar pre-hard mode, so I wanted to grab that for the Ankh shield. I don't think I got it quite yet, but I just wanted to get that out of the way before well, I guess I still had a lot of time before the screams started echoing from the dungeon. Anyway, I go on for my actual fight against Skeletron Prime, and this time I think I end up taking out a hand or two of his. Right there, though, that was very scary. I ended up getting hit by one of his bombs, which usually doesn't happen because there's not many of them, but every once in a while I'll be not paying too close attention and get hit by one, and they do a lot of damage. So from then on I stayed farther away, I focused down his laser hand, actually made sure to dodge the rest of the bombs, and after I got one or two of his arms taken out, it got a lot easier, and I was just able to take my time, focus down the rest of his health bar. You can see my little herb farm there as well as what I'm running past, as well as my corruption, my handmade corruption biome for doing the corruption fishing and the special corruption materials that you need for various things. Namely the worm scarf, actually. You'll notice that after I got the worm scarf from the Eater Worlds, right after I entered hard mode, that I keep that accessory on for the entire rest of the run. I think that it's really, really nice being able to take 17% less damage. It's just super, super high value. Anyway, I'm finally able to take on Skeletron Prime, and after that, oh yeah, that's right, I went to the jungle there so that I could craft the Knight's Edge. Now that I had all 3 of the mechanical boss souls, I went ahead to try out the new True Knight's Edge and found out that it was absolutely amazing. Then I discovered the Shimmer, the Lake of Shimmer, which you find it in the underground. This is my very first time encountering it. I was super excited, found the little failings, and it was really cool. The music and the atmosphere that it brings is just really fun. So I spent a good amount of time here. The reason that I was actually exploring the caves, I wasn't looking for the Shimmer, but I was looking for a marble cave so that I could get farm Medusas for the mirror, the hand mirror. Because I was missing that, I discovered that it was now necessary for crafting the Ankh charm. Anyway, I jumped in the Shimmer there and definitely was taken by surprise when I started falling through the floor and was unable to use any items. And then I dug back up to the Shimmer Lake to keep exploring it and discovered that there was actually a Medusa right there. So I thought, oh wait, that's just what I'm looking for. That's pretty awesome. Turns out right above here, where I am right now, I dig up to it and there's a marble cave right there. So it was pretty much perfect. I ended up staying around here, taking some hits from the hard mode enemies, and then I also happened to get one of the new achievements. This is the first of the new achievements that I was able to get, and then I just stuck around the rest of the time farming for the pocket mirror, which I eventually got there, and then I was able to make the Ankh charm. After that, I think I was once again heading for some fishing quests in Honey, or actually I don't even remember what I was doing. But I ended up killing Queen Bee, which I had never done until now. But now that I had the True Knight's Edge and, as you can see, full turtle armor after I did the chlorophyte mining, I was pretty well equipped to beat Queen Bee, so I wasn't too worried about that even without having a full arena to do so. I headed back to the underworld. I think I needed to kill the Wall of Flesh a time or two. I was looking for more materials to make the Avenger emblem and the components that it's used in afterwards. I did take a couple of hits there while I was down there from the Red Devils and their trident attacks, which are super scary. They did like well over half my health with one trident attack. So I had to be really careful around those guys. Did happen to fight a couple of Crimson Mimics at the same time, but eventually found a couple more Guide Voodoo Dolls and was able to kill the Wall of Flesh. I used the True Knight's Edge, which made pretty short work of it, and my turtle armor allowed me to basically just take very little damage from him. So was able to pretty safely kill the Wall of Flesh. The only thing, like I said, to really be worried about were the Red Devils. Eventually I did get enough materials for my emblems that I was looking for, but then I realized I was short on a few Souls of Might, so I had to fight the Destroyer again. Now that I had the turtle armor, I decided to actually go for the Shadow Flame Knife, which I have used in the past to fight the Destroyer with because of the bouncing effects. It actually has pretty good damage, over large area creatures like the Eater or the Destroyer. So I was able to take it out probably similar amounts of time, maybe a little quicker than my first attempt, but I didn't need some of the fancier potions that I used and stuff like that. Then I was finally able to craft both the fire gauntlet and the mechanical glove, and then I was able to, I felt ready to try to fight Plantera. My plan was actually to use the True Knight's Edge now that I had the full melee accessory loadout. And so I'll go back to actual regular speed here, which looks really slow actually, having watched it in double time most of the way here. But I do really like the Plantera fight, so I thought I would show it in regular time. You'll notice Plantera did kind of cut me off from my arena at the start there, but I was able to make it through. I got all my potions set up and my buffs pretty well, not, I wouldn't say maxed out, but very well equipped to do the boss battle. So I start firing away. The one weird thing about the True Knight's Edge, which some of you may already have noticed if you've tried to use it, is the projectile that it fires is a lot different from the normal melee projectiles. You see my aim looks like it's actually trash, like it's awful. I keep firing into Neverland half the time. It's amazing that she's taking damage at all, right? But the projectile is actually bound to the player position the whole time that it's in motion, rather than having its own trajectory after you fire it. So you see, as I move up and down, the spinning blades move with my character. Like, I'll shoot them horizontally and then drop down, and the blade drops with me. So it's very, it's unlike, I think, that I know of any other projectile in the game, where it's bound to the character model like that. So it definitely took me a lot of getting used to. But I was able to get pretty decent damage onto Plantera eventually, especially during the second phase. Having the melee set up really takes care of the little grabbers that Plantera shoots out. So it does, the melee gear, I would say, is well suited for especially second stage Plantera. I was able to use my little turnaround trick with my Hook of Dissonance a couple of times on her. I did get relatively low towards the center of towards the middle of the boss fight, but by the end of it I was feeling pretty comfortable and I was starting to get better at my aim, so I was able to keep the projectiles locked on her a little bit better. After I took her out the first time, I didn't waste any time in taking advantage of the potions again, so I had another bulb that was just down to the right of my arena, and I went ahead and fought her again. Another cool note here, you'll notice there's a big pool of water at the bottom of my arena, and that was very nice to have because it kind of soaks up the bouncing thorn projectiles that she shoots, and it keeps them from bouncing around in the arena during the rest of the fight. So it actually worked out really well to have that pool down there, as well as you'll notice I have, like, I didn't really realize it at first, but as soon as I started fighting her, I had a really big Plantera arena. It was a little bit overkill, so I didn't have any trouble having space to maneuver. During the second attempt, I did mix in my Shadow Flame knife here and there to get the Shadow Flame dot on her as well for just a little bit more damage, but I already had fire damage from the fire gauntlet, so I wasn't lacking too much in that department. Was able to take her down. Also, the cyborg arrived after my first defeat of Plantera, and then I was moving on swiftly from there. There's, I think, no, it's not quite yet, but coming up, there's been there was kind of a break in boss fighting between, I think, between the Golem and Duke Fishron. Actually, no, now that I looked at it, it is now, or at least part of it. I went into the dungeon and did a whole bunch of dungeon grinding. I was looking for, what was it? Oh yeah, I guess there's a handful of dungeon items that I really like to get off the bat. But, namely the Tabby plus Black Belt, so that I could get the Master Ninja gear. That was the main thing that I was looking for first off. So I was able to get that farmed up, and I replaced my Shield of Cthulhu, and then I went ahead and explored the Lizard Temple. I was really excited to do this. I had seen, using Spelunker potions from earlier, that there was a new painting in here that I was looking forward to finding. But I also realized that I couldn't see the wiring for the traps anymore. So I now know that they updated it, and you can no longer see or interact with the Lizard Temple trap wiring until after you've defeated the Golem, which I think is really a necessary adjustment there. It means you can't just take your grand design and disable all of the traps instantly before you even fight the Golem. So I found my way to the end of the temple. I used a potion of return to go back and grab a heart lantern for the arena here. I smoothed out the edges, and then I was ready to fight the Golem. I actually used mostly this Ruthless Kraken, and I did end up equipping the yo-yo bag as well. So I had pretty good damage with that, the Kraken that I happened to pick up from the dungeon. And I just stayed relatively close to him, as of course you kind of have to do that for the Golem because of the relatively small arena size that you're given. But I was able to take him out fairly comfortably. I did notice the differences from the last time that I had fought the Golem. His fists, his rocket fists, do look quite a bit cooler. They have a cool glowing effect when he fires them. And they also aren't instantly rejected when you hit them with any damage. So you can no longer just spam him with super high attack speed items and not worry about getting hit. You still have to actually dodge his fists. And I think that's a really cool change. It definitely makes the fight a little bit more interesting. It definitely didn't feel any harder than I remember it feeling before. After that, I went ahead and adjusted my loadout. I tried it with the Possessed Hatchet, which I had got from him from the first kill. And so I went ahead and attacked him with this. You'll notice, or I think anyway, I'll have to check next time I open my inventory. But I was actually fighting him with my Bricklayer equipped, I believe. Oh, no, not the Bricklayer, but the Hand of Creation. That's right. So I have an unreforged Possessed Hatchet and my Hand of Creation accidentally equipped because I think what I did is I replaced the yo-yo bag. Yeah, you can see it there. So I replaced my yo-yo bag because I wasn't using the Kraken anymore. And I didn't look closely enough, and I mistook the Hand of Creation for my mechanical glove. And so I thought I had the mechanical glove equipped, but instead it was the Hand of Creation. So a bit of a blunder there, but I didn't even notice and was able to take out the Golem a good, 3 more times after that. Then I did get the pickaxe axe, or no, pick saw. The pick saw, that's right. So I upgraded from the pickaxe axe to the pick saw, moved the altar up to my surface little arena, and then I just farmed him a whole bunch of times. I was looking specifically for the sunstone because I really wanted to make the celestial shell to have that as both a really good defensive and offensive accessory choice. I did need, however, to kill Skeletron Prime another time. I think I was short on Souls of Fright for... What was I using them for, actually? I can't remember off the top of my head why, but I did have to kill Skeletron again. Ended up fighting pirates again during this time as well. So this kind of break is where I took a lot of time and did a lot of farming. I spent a whole bunch of time in the dungeon. I was hoping to find a sniper scope, which I eventually did, but it took me a long time. It turned out I was kind of farming in the wrong area of the dungeon, but hopefully I'll get to talk about that later. This pirate invasion, I did take out 2 of the Flying Dutchmen, so I got to add that relic into my base. And then I continued on with the Golem fighting and finally got the Sunstone. So with that, I was able to make my Celestial Shell, reforge it there, and after that, I was finally ready to fight Duke Fishron. After looking at it, if I remember correctly, it was like 36 or 37 golems that it took me to get my Sunstone. So it was a lot of farming in the Lizard Temple, a lot of grinding him in the surface or arena there. But eventually I did get it, and then it was time to start on Duke Fishron. So I was very excited for this. Still my favorite boss in the game. And my first fight, I went ahead to attempt it with the Possessed Hatchet. Definitely provided enough damage. Still running my... Oh no, I wasn't running the turtle armor. I upgraded to the beetle armor. And I did go with the DPS beetle armor option instead of just the big tanky one, because having the extra damage I feel like is a lot nicer than just being able to survive a little longer, because you'll have to survive a lot longer to make up for the amount of damage you're missing by not having the stacking effects. I do use my Ankh Shield a couple of times in the middle of battle to relieve the bleeding effect that Duke Fishron gives. But overall, I just tried to work on my movement, tried to stay away from him. And I do get hit a couple of times here during the first stage, so definitely wasn't going perfect, but I wasn't too worried yet. I did notice, importantly, a cool change that they made to Duke Fishron is he's now invulnerable during the transition between phases. So you can't simply sit there and burst him down while he's transforming. You have to actually fight him during the or after the transformation, let's say. So you actually have to fight the full duration of his third phase now, which can be very scary. You'll notice here I'm staying mostly alive. There I took a big hit, and I know that I think I have I can survive 2 more hits, or at least 1 more hit. No, maybe 2. Anyway, I got really low there, but I was watching my health carefully and thought that I still at least had 2 hits at all times. So I was able to barely sneak him out there, took him down on my first try, and then I jumped back to base. The second attempt, I was not able to take him out. I actually had to retreat. I went back home and healed up again. My third attempt, again, I got pretty dang low at the end. Had a really lucky dodge there from the Master Ninja Gear. Otherwise, that would have forced me to go back to base. But from here on out, I don't think I ever actually needed to recall from him again. I did get pretty low a few times, but I was able to take him out pretty consistently. Unfortunately, I was not able to find the Fishron wings, so I was kind of debating on how much I wanted to try to get those. Next up was the Empress of Light, so to prepare for that I took out a couple of sky islands that were sort of in the central zone of the world. So I took out 2 sky islands and then went for the Empress fight here. Now this was really cool, first time fighting the Empress in a while. I guess first time fighting all bosses really, because I haven't been playing the game a whole lot. But I did start her up, and I was pretty happy with how the fight went near the beginning here. I was having pretty clean movement here, staying away from her. It took me quite a while to even take my first hit from her, actually. But once again, still using the Possessed Hatchet. I have enough damage from that, plus all of my pretty good accessories at this point, including like the gauntlets, the mechanical glove and the fire gauntlet. I think I'm still using both of those. And so definitely a lot of nice melee accessories, and the turtle armor gives me a good amount of survivability, so I can take a hit or 2 at least. So I go ahead, I get her into second phase pretty shortly here. I do get a little bit close there. I think I got a dodge from the Master Ninja Gear, actually. But here we are entering second phase, and I'm just still focusing on keeping my distance and shooting the Possessed Hatchet. That was a fancy little move there with the Hook of Dissonance. Watching it back, I would have probably gone the other way to dodge that attack, but with the Hook of Dissonance and then dashing out of it, I was able to do it pretty easily. I did take a hit from... oh, I don't remember all the attack names of the Empress right now. I should probably get good and check on that. But I did take a pretty hefty hit there, and then I got forced kind of down for a second there. But overall, I'm able to keep my height fairly comfortably and trying to maneuver between the attacks. Right there, I also got caught up in a pretty bad spot. So now I'm thinking, alright, she's getting low, I just have to hold on a little bit longer, and then look at, I took like some big hits right there, so I'm not feeling good about myself. I fired off the last few hatchets and then ran for it. I knew that once my invulnerability wore off from my star necklace, star necklace? maybe that's what it's called. The cross necklace plus star veil accessory. Anyway, it was a really close fight that first time. Luckily, I managed to take her out as I had to recall. So I did get her on my first try, but it got really tight at the end. Tried her for another time, still the same night here. I had enough time left. And this one went better overall. Although I did take more damage in the first half here. It was not nearly as clean, but it ended a lot nicer. It was not nearly as intense, teleporting out with my life barely held on to, at least. So I was able to get her taken down for a second time. Oh yeah, and of course I now have this soaring insignia, so that helps a whole lot. Gives you a lot more options and makes it so I'm not having to worry about returning to the platform to make sure that I don't run out of run out of flight time. I was forced into a couple awkward positions with the everlasting rainbows, but overall it went okay. And after that, I went on, I decided to fight another solar eclipse now that I could fight Mothrons. So I really wanted to get a broken hero sword because I was hoping to be able to craft the Terra Blade. Having seen the really cool changes to the melee swords leading up to the Terra Blade, I was hopeful that maybe there was some cool changes with that as well. So mostly out of curiosity, I wanted to get it and see just how strong it was and felt. So I took some time, killed another solar eclipse. I was able to get more than enough broken hero swords, and I also found some really cool new paintings from the solar eclipse. I was really stoked about that. And then I get the Terra Blade, and oh my gosh, it is awesome. I could not believe how great this thing felt. I immediately farmed a bunch more truffle worms and then took it to fight Duke Fishron again. I wanted to see if it had, even though it wasn't tracking, if I had good enough DPS to comfortably take down Duke Fishron with it. And it was just outstanding. Like, it was not a ton faster than the possessed hatchet, but it was a lot safer, mainly because the attacks just completely annihilate both the bubble projectiles, those ones from Duke Fishron, as well as all the sharks fired from the Sharknadoes. Like, as long as you're swinging with this sword, pretty much the only thing you have to worry about from Duke Fishron is his actual melee attacks hitting you. And so I went ahead and I farmed him a bunch more. And with this setup, I felt super comfortable that I was able to actually farm until the Fishron wings. So that's what I went ahead and did. It still took me a lot of time, though. I think before I got the wings, I had to kill just over 30 Duke Fishrons, which is pretty unlucky, but not insanely unheard of. It's like a 1 in 10 chance, so it was pretty unfortunate, but with this Terra Blade again, it was very safe, and it was a lot of fun doing it. After that, I took the Terra Blade against the Empress of Light, fought her during a thunderstorm, which is always super epic. Just the light flashing with all of the Empress's attacks is really fun. But once again, the Terra Blade, especially after getting it legendary off of reforging, is super strong. I was able to take out the Empress. I don't remember what I was killing her for. Perhaps to make sure that I had like the Eventide, or maybe one of the other melee weapons from the Empress. I wanted to have a few options because I wasn't completely sure how I wanted to take on the final sequence yet, but I was generally planning on using the Vortex Beater. That's what I had done previously, and so that was kind of my goal in the back of my mind. But leading up to that, I wanted to make sure that I was as powerfully geared out as I could have been. So I finished off Empress once again. Oh, and again, it looks like. I think I fought the Empress, I don't know, not a ton of times, but probably 5 or 6. Eventually, there we go. I do finally get the Fishron wings, and here you can get a little bit of a look as to what my world map looks like. I was trying to keep up with the fishing quests as well, but that right there is where I will call it for the part 2 of the hardcore story. After this, I did actually a lot of practice getting ready for the celestial pillars, and that is where we will pick up in the next part. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys a whole ton for watching, and I hope you have an outstanding rest of your day.